Right, so it was a couple of weeks ago now that I did a video explaining how Israel's own soldiers were turning against the war in Gaza, refusing to return to their posts following leave, presenting Israel with a bit of a recruitment issue, let's put it, in order to keep their atrocities going. Fighting so many battles on so many fronts and with more and more of their own men refusing to show up, it's left Israel with a manpower problem. And when this might be solved by other nations deploying their troops in Israel, if they are so supportive of Israel as several other governments adamantly seem to be, then why wouldn't they do such a thing? Well, being found guilty of aiding and abetting genocide, for one thing, they know the truth really. It'd be pretty nailed on as well. But it seems there's another way for Israel to try and make up the numbers too. Bribery and corruption. Israel are literally buying people off to fight their genocidal war with promises of cash benefits, big pay packets exceeding those of standard IDF soldiers, and even promises of Israeli citizenship. Israel are recruiting any mercenaries they can lay their hands on, and if that doesn't expose their desperation and the fragility of their mockery of a most moral army in the world, I don't know what does. Right, so 13 months into the genocide of Gaza as we now are, more than 400 days having now passed, and Israel really thought this would all be done and dusted by now, didn't they? They'd be sitting pretty. Gaza would still be rubble from one end to the other, but the world would cheer their success at taking down the terrorists who dared perpetrate the events of one night in October last year, a continuity of normal service where everyone feels sorry for poor, victimized, eternally oppressed Israel, and go to bed and sleep soundly knowing justice has prevailed. Of course, that is only in Benjamin Netanyahu's sweetest dreams. That vision he might have had for going into Gaza as he did has instead become an absolute nightmare for Israel. For the first time in history, a genocide is played out in real time before all of our eyes across social media, and we haven't needed the mainstream media to tell us what was going on. Not that they would anyway. The main source of keeping us insulated and ignorant of the realities of life as a Palestinian in Gaza as they've been for decades. But my God, we know now in the rawest and most visceral terms, and the global consensus of ordinary working class people the world over is that Israel are a genocidal apartheid state and a global pariah they have become. That our leaders don't share that view is on them, and we'll deal with them at the ballot box at the next possible opportunity. But equally, it is not just our eyes being open to the reality of what is happening in Gaza or Lebanon or anywhere else currently being attacked by Israel, but also of those fighting for Israel too, now so demoralized and fed up that this is still going on, that they are going over the same ground over and over again, repeatedly failing to actually eliminate Hamas or actually eliminate Hezbollah, that for some time now they've been losing troops not as casualties of their own oppression or of the battles they're having with Hamas and Hezbollah, but their troops simply refusing to return to their posts after a period of leave. They've had enough, refused to fight. It's a waste of time in their view. They've seen so many of their colleagues die, and for what? What exactly has Israel achieved? They are despised the world over. They are, it is widely believed, lying about their casualty numbers. They have failed to eliminate Hamas or Hezbollah, who keep retaliating, and every action they take is yet another war crime to add to a long list of them that their country and the government will inevitably be charged for at some point. And when their children or grandchildren ask them what they did, all they will be able to say is that I was just following orders. Making the choice to say no, I'm not going back, I'm not doing this anymore, might be the only way some of these people can live with themselves. On top of this crisis, there's been a mass exodus of tens of thousands of settlers from the occupied territories as well. The very people holding festivals celebrating more settlements in Gaza. The very people drawing up plans for said settlements. They've actually been fleeing their own places of settlement in case they get drafted now, because God forbid the people cheerleading actually be made to take part. They've been disappearing back where they came from originally. Israel have even tried to resort to getting Haredi Jews to enlist, Orthodox Jews, to force them to take part. However, they have always been exempted. They don't believe in the state of Israel. They don't subscribe to Zionism, even though they might live there. And we've seen many a video of Haredis being beaten over their opposition to Zionism in Israel by the IDF. They, however, have not insignificant representation in the Israeli Knesset, and Netanyahu has effectively been warned by Haredi parties to back off, or they'll start blocking the passage of regular day-to-day laws, giving Bibi a domestic headache to look forward to. But between the numbers refusing to fight any longer and the numbers lost in the fighting, Israel are in a desperate way, and their desperation has been exposed by just how they're trying to now make up the numbers. And as I said before, it is resorting to bribery and corruption that they are attempting to do so. But if this is what is going to pass for their army going forwards, they are in real trouble. And the thought of them ever achieving their objectives like this are a joke. Now, Israel using mercenaries is actually nothing new. They've always done it. They've done it since the off in 1948, since their state was forcibly created. Paying people to fight for them as it essentially amounts to. And right now, or at least as of the 4th of November, according to a report by Israeli outlet Yedioth Ahronoth, Israel is in serious need of some 7,000 recruits immediately. So how to get them then? Well, there's options. One unprecedented step they've taken is to look at Israel's Ethiopian Jews, the so-called Falasha Jews. Israel might consider themselves all moral and not at all racist, but the victims of racism all the time themselves, playing the anti-Semitism card as we know they like to do. But they can't even be equal amongst their own religion, as the Falasha are considered inferior and looked down upon in comparison to Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews. Well, now they're being seen in a little bit of a better light. And any Falasha who may have entered Israel illegally, or have overstayed on their visas and been imprisoned over such offences, because that is what Israel does, are now being offered amnesty and having their Israeli citizenship fast-tracked even, in exchange for enlisting. In exchange for agreeing to that, they are also being promised jobs and homes after the war within Israel. According to the Cradle, by October of this year, Israel had recruited 17,000 Falasha in this way, yet there's still 7,000 recruits short as of the beginning of this month. So what else is going to go on then? What else have they got to choose from? What other options do they have? Well, Israel, despite the genocide, still have friends. And one of their besties remains Germany, or the German government. And Germany are looking at those seeking asylum there and seeking to exploit them to help Israel out with its recruitment crisis. A collaboration between the Netanyahu regime and Zionist organisations in Germany, along with German intelligence over the past 7 months, has seen recruitment of people from Afghanistan, Libya and Syria working to recruit these refugees to now fight for Israel. These potential mercenaries are being offered German citizenship in exchange for their service, along with monthly salaries of up to €5,000, which is in excess of double the wage of a regular IDF soldier, which at the top end is in the region of some 8,000 Israeli shekels, or just over €2,000. I wonder how many more actual IDF soldiers quit the job over that little stat when it becomes more widely known about. You have to bear in mind how much of a mediator role Germany has taken throughout the last 13 months, acting as intermediaries in much the same way as the US, if we're going to be honest about it, saying they want peace whilst arming one side in the conflict. But now they've come out taking one side quite overtly as a result of this. And a quote being attributed to their foreign minister, the devoutly Zionist Annalena Baerbock, states that Germany considers Israel's security to be an extension of its national security. Therefore, Germany is committed to Israel's right to defend itself and to provide all possible assistance for that. Absolutely mad, tying their own nation's reputation and national security to that of Israel's. But I don't think many of us are surprised by politicians taking such stances these days. Not with all that pro-Zionist donor cash that seems to always be flowing around, would you not agree? There have been other attempts to recruit mercenaries through other routes as well, though. Various pro-Zionist organisations have connected with Israeli intelligence. But this is less exploiting a ready pool of pliant, possibly quite vulnerable people, and more just paying who they have contact with the sums demanded of them to fight. And yet all of this is news that has come out prior to November. So none of this, no matter how successful it might have been by way of recruitment at drafting refugees, puts a dent in that alleged 7,000 current soldier shortfall. Israel very much seems to be cracking up militarily now, and given they've already been exploiting people to turn them into mercenaries and have been helped by other nations to find more at that, it's not enough. And for how much longer Israel can physically continue as its manpower depletes could be what eventually finishes matters. They can have all the weapons, all the international support, all the military aid they like, but if they run out of enough people to use it, then it's useless. It's a message Joe Biden would do well to remember as he sends yet more weapons to Israel, despite his humanitarian aid's demands going completely ignored by them, and his party having lost the US election because of the arming of Israel in no small part. Check out more of the issues within the IDF itself and its recruitment issues in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. It'll cheer you no end to hear the problems Israel's madmen in government are having on this issue. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.